This podcast is part of the Game and Entertainment Network. Visit tgenetwork.net to find the latest episodes from all our shows.
Welcome back to Couch Potatoes. This is episode 75, and I'm your host, Lane. Would normally say I'm joined by my co-host, Ari, but she had some things that she had to do, and I have things to do throughout the weekend, so it was just easier for me to record something real quick so we put something up for the week and not miss out on a week, because I hate doing that. So, I already had this set of notes set up and ready to go, so, and thankfully it's a topic that I can kind of roll with on my own, so that's what I'm going to do. So, this week, I didn't really have much in mind to talk about as far as like a general sweeping idea. So this is more of a talking point show. Done them before. Actually, I believe the last one that we had was me by myself as well. So we already know that I can get it done. So I found some news stories I found interesting, a few other stories and things that have been going on that I just wanted to talk about real quick because I don't understand them or, found them interesting. Just stuff I wanted to share. So, you know the drill. And we'll get to that in a little bit. It is tradition to talk about what we've been playing. It's just me, so we'll talk about what I've been playing. Basically, I have only really played Diablo 3 and League of Legends this week. I've been really focusing on League of Legends. The preseason is getting ready to end. Season 6 is getting ready to start. There's been some changes here and there. With the new systems and things that they've added in, and actually they just added in the new Champion Select today, and I got to try that out earlier. There's a couple guys that I've been playing with pretty regularly, and things have been going pretty good, but yeah, for the most part, just been practicing a lot, trying to figure out which champions I want to play, what roles I want to play. Last season I was playing a lot of support, AD carry, and some top. I've noticed that I don't feel quite so good with AD carries anymore. I think my support role is still pretty good, but I've become a pretty dominant top laner in most cases, aside from when I'm hard countered or camped. Everybody has their shortcomings, and it's going to happen with anyone, so I'm no exception to that rule. But I think it's been going pretty well, and been doing a lot of that. Also, the Fantasy LCS starts this week. It actually started yesterday with the EU, and NA starts this weekend. I got some of those same guys that I've been playing League with to start up another league for Fantasy, and that's also taken up some of my time. Otherwise, I've been playing Diablo 3. The 2.4 patch released. If you guys have been paying attention to my blog or my YouTube, you'll notice that I did a bunch of recording, some gameplay and commentary on the new zones. Posted that all up here recently. So I don't really have a lot to add. I would just say check out my blog, check out my YouTube, and check out the gameplay videos if you're interested. 2.4 added new zones, some new different types of dungeons, different variants on rifts, and just a bunch of tweaks and whatnot. And I'm impressed with what Diablo's done this time around, because the old Diablo and pretty much every other action RPG I've played have been nothing but play through the game, then start over on a new difficulty, play through it again, start over, and then once you've done the hardest difficulty, then it's just farm or do whatever to try and max your character out, and that seems kind of boring. Adventure mode, it still ends up being the same thing, relatively, but it adds randomization, and the rifts add some variety, and they've been continuously adding new set pieces and new things that make it feel fresh again. And it's the kind of game that you can take a break from and come back to, so it's not that big of a deal. So yeah, I am intending, the new season starts this week, and I'm intending on playing that as well. Season 5. Getting back into the whole seasonal thing, play through the game again, and maybe make some further progress. I don't know. I usually play it for a couple months here and there, and then get bored, don't play it for a while, and come back. So that's probably the way the pattern will continue. But yeah, that's really all I've been playing this week. And since it's just me, I'm just going to roll through on to the discussion. So, talking points. I have several stories here, some things that I'd like to talk about. And the first thing is the concept of people being affected by celebrity deaths. Now, if you've been paying attention, which I'm sure most of you have, this past week, both David Bowie and Alan Rickman passed. And I think it was the tail end of last year, so only a couple weeks ago, that Lemmy from Motorhead died as well. And I just have seen it all over on Twitter and Facebook, particularly. But, blogs and other news sites, websites, it's on TV. It's been everywhere. You pretty much can't avoid it with that, you can't look at anything without it slapping you in the face. But the thing that I find interesting, it's like, okay, everyone dies. We all know that. And I would understand if you knew one of these people personally, how you would be upset about the fact that they'd passed. But because they're celebrities, you don't really know them on a personal level. Like, you may feel that you know them, or you've gotten to know parts of them because of their performances, their music, their acting, the movies that they've been in. They have touched your life in a certain way. But I just don't understand the outpouring of emotion from people who are saying, oh, I don't know how I'm going to get through the day because David Bowie died. It's like, okay, well, me personally, I'm not a fan of Motorhead, so Lemmy passing really did not affect me. I'm not a fan of David Bowie, so him passing did not affect me. I am, however, a fan of Alan Rickman. I think that he's done very good things. I've watched a lot of his movies. I know he was great in Dogma. He was great in Harry Potter. He was in, the old Robin Hood. He's been in a lot of movies that I've seen. He's a very good actor, or was. And, so he touched my life in some sort of way. And I can't say that I haven't heard Motorhead and I haven't heard David Bowie songs, but at the same time, I don't care. There's nothing there for me. And there's nothing there that makes me feel like, oh, I'm overwhelmed with emotion and I can't function as a human being because some celebrity that I never met and never will meet died. I just don't understand that. I mean, I remember George Carlin passing, and I wrote a little piece on my blog, rest in peace. I made a mention when Bowie died, rest in peace. And, I understand people wanting to wish that and wish to their families and things like that. I mean, we are all in this together. We're all alive on this planet together, and I'm not trying to be super negative here, but at the same time, it's like, really, people? I mean, you're that upset about somebody that you have nothing in common? Well, I mean, you're not going to meet them. You don't know them. It's not like your brother, your mother, your cousin died, or even, somebody that was an acquaintance of yours died. It's someone that you've never met and never will meet. And I mean, yeah, sure, there's probably somebody out there who has met them backstage or whatever, but, it's... Come on. Like, why? Why are you so upset by this? I just don't understand it. Not to take away from your guys' suffering, I guess, but I just don't see why people put them on a pedestal. I mean, normal people die every single day. Between the time that Lemmy died and Alan Rickman died yesterday, between that time in a month or less, there's probably been thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, maybe 10,000, I don't know. But there's been tons of people that have died, but nobody gives a shit about them. Nobody's on Twitter boo-hooing about how so-and-so in the Philippines died. No, they don't care. They don't care at all. So why do we put these celebrities on pedestals and, make them seem like they're such great human beings, they're better than everyone else, and they're so revered? I just don't understand that. Maybe it's just me. But, I don't know. Can somebody answer that for me? Can you tell me why people are affected so on such a personal level and on such a deep level when someone famous dies? I mean, I guess it goes back to the same reason why people give a shit about what Kim Kardashian's doing, but, I'm just not one of those people. I would be more upset if one of my friends on Twitter, who I've never met in person, but have at least connected with communicatively, died. If one of these people on Twitter that's so upset about these people dying actually died, I would be more upset about them dying than I am about these celebrities. So it's just, I think people are putting too much value on their lives as if they're better than other people, and also too much focus on it. Like, yes, they died. May they rest in peace. Yes, they did good things for other people, but, I mean, they're not your brother, they're not your mother, they're not your cousin, you don't know them, so get over it. That's just my 2 cents. So moving on, everything else is probably going to be more gaming related than that. That was just something big that happened that I couldn't resist saying something about, because, I mean, I don't want to be crass and piss people off, but Jesus, like, there's better things to worry about, people. Not to say that gaming is better than that, but, you know, who am I to say anything? Here I am going to ramble for another 20 or 30 minutes about video games, which really mean nothing, so I guess I'm an idiot too. Whatever. Moving on. So, lately I've noticed, actually, let's just say for the last couple years, I've noticed a weird thing happening with blogging. And it seems to be trending only at certain times of the year. And I'm curious as to why, particularly with our little section of the blogosphere. Like, there's the old guard, you know, people like, we won't name names, but I would consider myself part of it because I've been doing this for a very long time, over 10 years now. And there's quite a few other bloggers that I follow and follow me and we talk and whatnot that have been doing it just as long. And then there's quite a few other people that have only been doing it for a couple years, 5 years, whatever, but they all have had some lengthy commitment to the craft, we might call it. And I think it's funny that it just seems like whenever the NBI rolls around, everybody's really super involved. Last year's was a little bit on the light side, but the year before that in particular was very, very involving. There was a lot of people, newbies and veterans, getting involved and constantly writing. And then Belgast starts up the Blogust thing year before last and last year as well. And that was great. There was tons of people blogging. It was like there was always so much stuff to read, too much stuff to read. You didn't have time to read it all, and it was crazy. But then it's like, man, so many of those people that were newbies or even, 1 year old, a lot of people that I read, it just seems like everybody's kind of gotten into this lull. Not me, not a few other people that I read. There's quite a few bloggers that are still keeping at it, but they've been doing it again for a very long time. So I just thought it was interesting that, it's like midsummer and late summer, like through the summer basically, everybody's blogging. And I mean, it's not like we're kids who have school and then get out of school and have all the free time in the world during the summer. It doesn't work that way. Everyone still works during the summer. Everyone still has lives all year round. We all do. And yet some of us seem to put out the effort to blog every single day or several times a week or at least a couple times a month. And then there's people who just kind of let it go. And I understand things change. People get different jobs, or they move, or they have kids, or they get married, and not everybody can do this forever. And I'm not blaming people for not sticking with it. But I just have noticed quite a few sites that have just disappeared or have become inactive for months on end. And it's kind of worrisome. I mean, I'm not going anywhere, and I know quite a few other people aren't going anywhere. But it seemed like what we were building up, this community that has formed and has started to gain traction, get built bigger, has just sort of tapered off and is starting to peter out. And I don't know if maybe it's because, I really don't know why. Maybe somebody else can theorize what the problem is, but it's just been kind of weird. Anyhow, moving along. So Origin has come along with a new plan, which I guess isn't completely new. I guess it's been available on Xbox maybe for a while. I'm not exactly sure how long, but it is now coming to PC, and the Origin game launcher that you basically have to get any of the newer EA games, like Dragon Age or Titanfall or Battlefield, those types of things. It's now offering a subscription service. It's going to be $5 a month. You will have unlimited playtime within that $5 per month. but it's only a particular selection of their catalog, which isn't really big, but it does include Dragon Age and Battlefield and a few other titles. For me, it seems interesting enough just to be able to play Dragon Age for $5 a month. I mean, I could probably beat the game in a month. So instead of paying $60 for the game of the year, I could pay $5 for a month and beat it. That sounds like a deal. But outside of that, I don't like Battlefield. I'm not sure if Battlefront is included, but I would like to play that. But yeah, it is an interesting idea, because $5 a month to access their catalog isn't a bad price point, and unlimited playtime there is good. But then you also get some sort of discount, I think it's 10% on pre-orders or new games, and then some sort of extra free playtime. It kind of coincides with their On the House and their other game time stuff that they already have going on. But basically, it's kind of like Games with Gold that's on Xbox or PlayStation Plus that's on PlayStation, in that you pay that monthly fee, or in the case of those two, usually you can buy a yearly fee. It's $50 a year, which I do for PlayStation, and every month you get some free games, and you can play those unlimited as long as you're continuous subscriber. So I've been doing that with PlayStation for 2-3 years. Gotten a lot of games. A lot of them are crap. Some of them are good. But for the most part, it has been a very worthwhile expenditure, because of the fact that you pay a little bit of money and you get all those games. And even if there are games that you don't want, the next month there will be games that you want. You might get some that you like, some that you don't, but it's still very much worth the money. And so this is basically something like that coming to PC. Now, most people don't like Origin. They don't like EA. They don't want to participate in this. I understand that. The only reason I had Origin is because I wanted Titanfall, and I don't even play the game anymore. So, yeah, they give away some free games here and there, so I have those too, but I haven't really played any of them. But yeah, it's interesting, and the thing that I'm wondering is whether or not something like Steam or Ubisoft's thing, Uplay, maybe even Blizzard. I mean, they don't have a whole lot of games, but they could easily transition to a subscription service. I mean, they're already doing it with WoW, of course, so I'm assuming that would stay separate, but and then they have free-to-play games. But, there's StarCraft and Diablo, and their classic StarCrafts and Diablos that they have on Battle.net that, they could actually allow you to play for a subscription fee. Now, Steam obviously has a huge catalog, so I don't see where they would be like, oh yeah, give us $10 a month and we'll let you play anything you want. I seriously doubt that. They would be losing money like crazy. But at the same time, they could have something more akin to like PlayStation Plus, where it's like you pay us, $10 a month, a couple bucks a month, whatever it breaks down to, and they give you several free games each month. I wouldn't be opposed to that. If they had something like that, I think I would do it. I know that Humble, not too long ago, started a monthly subscription fee themselves for $12 a month, and it gives you a free bundle every month. Although it's more of the traditional, you kind of own it kind of thing. I don't believe that you lose access to those if you stop paying for the subscription like you would with the Xbox and PlayStation stuff. Same with Origin. But yeah, it seems like a good and bad thing. Maybe a worrying shift towards everything becoming a service and nothing being a product anymore. Meaning ownership, which we don't really have ownership as it is, because of Steam, for some reason, was to just shut down. We would lose all of our games. And that would be concerning, to say the least. But, yeah. It's an interesting idea. Interesting times. Interesting things coming ahead. It's going to be weird if one day we're paying a subscription to play Steam games. But it's very possible, especially if this Origin thing takes off. I could very, very well see these types of things happening. But yeah, I'm thinking about doing it, just to be able to say I could play some of those games that I would like to play, that I haven't gotten around to playing just yet. It would be nice to just be able to jump into Battlefield if I felt like it, even though I'm not a huge fan. It's still something else to do. So I might try it out here sometime soon, and I'll report back when I do. Another big chunk of news that came out recently was the Oculus Rift has finally announced its price tag. And that is $600. Apparently, people were having a shit fit because throughout time, during development and whatnot, it was promised that it would not be a high price point, and they were shooting for like the $300-ish range, and then they doubled that. And people are upset, predictably. But, yeah, we were talking a lot about VR last week as a trend that's, coming, and obviously it's coming this year, because apparently it's supposed to be somewhere in the summer is when Oculus is supposed to release. So there are many other competitors. HTC has one, and the Project Morpheus is working its way out to getting live as well. So we do know that that's coming. And one of the bloggers in the blogosphere, Mabrick, has a pretty thorough rundown of what's going on with the Rift. And apparently it's having some sort of issues with the processor. It's really wanting it to work off of a single core, or at least it's when you're going to try and use it, it's analyzing your system. They have like a little tester thing here, and he personally has a i7, which I have an i7 as well, although mine is quite a bit newer than his. Either way, it's telling him that his PC is not ready for Rift because the processor doesn't meet the minimum specifications. And that just seems weird. And he goes through lots of different benchmarks and other things, and it's a really thorough write-up, so I will leave a link to that in the show notes here. But, yeah, people are upset. But, honestly, I think whenever a new technology comes out, it usually ends up being a lot more expensive than it will be by the time it's semi-mainstream. Like, I remember in the early 2000s going to Best Buy and seeing LCD TVs. And actually, they weren't even LCDs yet. At that point, they were still just plasmas. And they were going for like $10,000 for, one that was like 40 inches and not even that big. I'm currently reading these show notes off of a 32-inch LCD that I paid $200 for. And it's not a bad TV. It's lasted me, I think I've had it for almost 5 years now. So, things will eventually come down in price. It's not going to be $600 forever. And I think, if you really want to be on the cutting edge and get something that's brand new and experience VR right away, that's what you're going to have to pay. Honestly, most people get more than that back on their tax returns. So, if you really needed to have it, you could get it. Now, will it run with your computer? That's a whole different story. But I would imagine most top-end PCs, or high-end at least, would be able to run it at this point. It doesn't seem like it's anything that's really all that graphically intensive from things that I've seen. It doesn't seem like any different than most PC games are playing these days. So, I would just say give it a while. We'll see what happens. When the first wave comes out, consumers get their hands on it, they'll be finding out what's wrong with it. The companies will be, getting a lot of feedback as far as, this sucks about it, that sucks about it. They're going to change things. They're going to iterate on it. It's going to get better. It's going to come down in price. And, who knows? VR might bomb right out the gate. People might hate it. They've tried VR a couple times in the past, and it didn't go anywhere. So, granted, this is better VR than what they've had in the past. But I don't foresee it being something that comes out and everybody's just unanimously in love with it. It's going to be something where it's going to take a little while to catch on. And, again, it's going to take a while for it to come down in price, to be mainstream, for every average consumer to get their hands on it. It's going to take a little while. But then again, look at smartphones. Smartphones cost more than $600. And they do dick in comparison. As far as giving you a whole brand new gaming experience, there isn't shit you're going to get on a smartphone that's going to cost you the same price. Granted, you can get that smartphone on some sort of contract through whichever phone provider that you're using and end up only paying a certain amount a month for that phone. But you get what I'm saying. I'm sure if you have a credit card, you can put it on a credit card and it's the same thing. So, yeah, people are bitching, but what don't people bitch about? VR's coming. It's either going to, be amazing or it's going to suck. Time will tell. I'm not going to be an early adopter, I'll tell you that much. Okay, so this next one isn't really a story, more so something that I found rather entertaining. So I'm just gonna leave this here.
A message to Xbox One or Microsoft or whoever the fuck. Y'all fucking server is fucking whack, man. Y'all gonna make me switch to PlayStation if y'all don't have to get this shit fixed. It's that difficult to play somebody online. What the fuck is you doing, Bill Gates? Fix your shit, man.
So that was a message from Snoop Dogg. Apparently he was having some issues with Xbox. I saw it randomly and thought it was hilarious. And anytime somebody's talking shit on Xbox, I have to laugh because I'm not an Xbox fan. So, moving on. Let's see, what's next? So another semi-big story. Amazon Prime members, which, if you're not familiar, Amazon, obviously one of the big major online retailers, has a Prime service, which is like a membership to an exclusive club. And apparently now they are doing something where if you pre-order games or just buy new releases, and they're calling new releases, the day of release up until, or they're calling the pre-orders up until 2 weeks after it's released. So basically, if you're an early adopter and you're a member of Amazon Prime, you now get 20% off any of those games. So basically, if you're a Prime member, you get 20% off any game that you buy that's brand new, including pre-orders. That's kind of a big deal. I mean, most of the time, pre-orders just means you're getting the game guaranteed on the first day, and you get whatever bullshit pre-order stuff that they throw into with the game. But you're usually paying the full $60. So, 20% off, that's not a huge amount, but it's still not bad. You're getting a few bucks off every single time on a brand new game. Seems to me that would be the way to go if you're that kind of person that buys $60 games every time they come out. I'm not, because I personally just don't usually do it. Fallout 4 was the last one I got for $60. Time before that was probably a couple years, maybe more. I just don't buy games the day they come out unless I can't live without them. I prefer getting games for, a nice, healthy discount, or as a part of a bundle, or just any way that I could save a few bucks and get more games for my buck, or just get the same games for cheap. I don't care if I don't get it right when it comes out, so it's not that big of a deal. But for those of you who do get games right when they come out, it's definitely a deal. You might want to look into getting an Amazon Prime membership. Another interesting tidbit, apparently Twitter gaming is now a thing. Now, apparently this is actually just a secondary, or there's multiple, but it's just another account associated with Twitter itself. So it's at Twitter Gaming. And apparently there's a Twitter Music, which I had no idea was a thing. And then there's like support and just the regular Twitter account and yada yada. But I guess they're trying to make a push for greater prominence in the video game space. So Twitter Gaming is their way of allowing, let's just quote right from the article. The goal is to support the avid gaming community and help the top gaming organizations and personalities deliver high-quality content to engage with their fans on Twitter. It doesn't really make any sense because members of the gaming community, like myself and everyone else who's got a Twitter account that plays video games and tweets about video games, we're already there doing it. So, yeah. And I mean, top gaming organizations, they already got their own accounts and they're already tweeting. And personalities already have their own accounts and they're tweeting. So this seems kind of redundant, but it goes on to say that there are thousands of gaming-related tweets sent on Twitter each day. No shit. Whether folks are discovering a new game, tweeting at a gaming personality, keeping up with gaming news, or following their favorite esport, we want to make it easy for gaming fans to find and join the most vibrant conversations about games. Well, gee, thanks, Twitter. I've been on Twitter for, about 2 years now, and gee, I have missed out on so much gaming news because there was no gaming Twitter. Fucking joke, right? Yeah. So, I mean, even this article on PC Gamer, they're pretty sarcastic about the whole thing. Follow along if that's your thing at Twitter Gaming. They end it with. So yeah, I mean, it's nice to see that gaming has become so mainstream that everybody is trying to get their hands and into to the pie and whatnot. But It just seems so redundant at this point. I mean, Twitter's already been used for gaming. I follow tons of game developers and gaming personalities and esports teams, and, I've done everything that it's trying to do. I've already got that going for me. It's on my Twitter. It's on your Twitter. We already interact with those companies. I mean, I tweeted directly to developers and had them tweet me back. So what the fuck do I need Twitter gaming for? I don't. So yeah. If you would like to follow it, it's at Twitter Gaming. But I'm just going to avoid it, because who cares? So speaking of esports, apparently, despite the fact that ESPN did a live broadcast, I think it was on like ESPN 3 or something, it wasn't on the OG ESPN, and it wasn't even on ESPN 2. It was on, I think, 3 or some college one, there's like 50 fucking ESPN channels, so who knows which one it was on. But there was a live broadcast on TV of the International, which is ironic, considering the International is still smaller than League of Legends Championship Series. But League has done a very good job of streaming their own stuff, and I don't really think they need the help of ESPN, whereas Dota 2 might actually need the help. But that's just me being a fanboy. Either way. So they did a live broadcast of the International on ESPN 15 or whatever the fuck, and the network was reportedly delighted by the response to the coverage, but then the president basically right after the fact says, oh yeah, but actually esports aren't a sport. And we did a show on esports way back when we got started, and I kind of had the same attitude, that esport, not a sport, yada yada. Well, I've gotten a lot more into esports in the time since then, and I do feel it is kind of the same thing as a sport, because those guys sit and play the game for 8 to 10 hours a day, every day, when they're not playing at a professional thing. I think they get like 2 months off a year, because the way the leagues work, and then there's a mid-season invitational, and there's IEM, there's so many different tournaments in between the regular big playoffs and seasons and whatnot, so I think they get like a month or so off, maybe 2. It's around the holidays, during the preseason. But even then, they're practicing, and it's just like sports. I mean, I follow football, so I know that football players are practicing and doing all this kind of shit during the off season just the same, and they actually probably do less practicing and they definitely play a lot less games. However, because of the fact that it is so ridiculously physical, they are, not to say that sports are a lesser thing, or esports are a lesser thing. Let's just say that they're both basically on the same sort of level. And ESPN finally decided that they're going to totally accept esports as a sport. And they've now said and launched a full-blown esports section on the website, and it has links for coverage of League of Legends, Dota 2, and Hearthstone. Now, for whatever reason, they've avoided StarCraft, they've avoided Smite, they've avoided CSGO, they've avoided, any other game that you can think of that's already got some sort of esports thing going for it. It's not on here. Don't know why, but I'm assuming that will change, and I think that they're going to get, some more coverage, and that might lead to there being more coverage on actual TV, which is a good thing. It's the legitimization of esports as a real sport. I mean, if you can have the World Series of Poker, which that really is not a sport, then on ESPN, then, why not? So, ESPN is officially the ESPN of esports. Cool beans. So I only have one last story. So this is going to be a bit of a shorter episode, but hey, that is the way it goes. There's been a few times where we've been talking about how if I could play Skyrim or Fallout or any of the Bethesda games, because they're such great worlds, and they're such, they're open, there's so much lore there, there's so much exploring to be done, there's tons of combat, there's just so much great stuff that goes into a Bethesda game, that it would be awesome to share that experience with your friends. And that's what everybody was hoping for when ESO was coming out, being developed. Everybody wanted to have that multiplayer Skyrim experience. We didn't get that. ESO doesn't feel like Skyrim. If you play them side by side, they are nothing alike. Despite the fact that the lore is the same, the world doesn't feel the same, the combat's not the same. They put a bunch of MMO crap into it that really didn't need to be there because it already was enough like an MMO by itself. I remember the first Elder Scrolls games that I really played was Morrowind. And when I played it, it reminded me so much of EverQuest, that I didn't feel the need to play it because I was already playing that game elsewhere. So, if they could make it close enough to an MMO back then, obviously it's continued along that path. It's a very deep RPG. There's a lot of elements there that are familiar to MMO players, and ESO was just not it. I still had some moments where I enjoyed the game, and I might still play some more of it in the future, but it's just not the experience that I wanted. What I wanted was Skyrim, but instead of having an AI-controlled companion at my side, I wanted my buddy to be able to play it. Or maybe even have a couple extra people play it, but just make it a small multiplayer game, not an MMO. Well, some modders of Morrowind have actually been developing a new engine for the game to run on, so that it is a little bit prettier, a little bit newer looking, and also optimized for modern computers, because I still own the discs for Morrowind, so I might give it a whirl and see if I can actually get it to install, but I don't think it would, to be honest. So, they're trying to get it to where it will work, and they're also implementing multiplayer. Now, currently, it's called Open Morrowind, or Open MW, but it's not exactly playable just yet. They are still trying to get it to work. And apparently it will also require you to own the original copy of the game, so you need like a CD key or something to be able to work it, because they don't want to have to worry about copyright laws and whatnot. But, it's an interesting concept. It's something that's cool, and I know that there are a few other mods out there, or guys that are working on mods, where it's Morrowind was supposedly ported into the Skyrim engine and the Skyrim world, so basically you could go and explore it while playing Skyrim. Same thing with the whatever world parts were in Oblivion. So, it's crazy what some of these modders are doing, and it would be awesome to see, all of the different Elder Scrolls games in a newer engine and having some multiplayer. Can you imagine if you had the whole world of Skyrim, plus the whole world of Morrowind, plus the whole world of Oblivion, all together, and be able to play through it with a buddy? Talk about endless fun. That would be fucking phenomenal. I would love to go back and play some of those games with modern graphics, in a modern engine, and have them all linked up. Man, talk about amazing. So yeah, again, I'll have this link along with the others that I've talked about today in the show notes, so you guys can take a look at what I'm talking about, get a better idea of what's going on with it. But that is the last article that I have something to say about today. Had I had Ari here with me, this may have stretched out a little bit longer, but hey, the last few episodes have run pretty long. They've all been over an hour for the past couple months, so I figure probably a good idea to have a shorter episode so that you guys don't get bored and whatnot. So, that's it for this week's show. If you got questions, comments, leave them on the blog, or on our Libsyn page, or wherever. We're on Twitter, we're around. Let us know what you think, and let me know if you think that any of this was interesting or not interesting. Feedback is always appreciated. So, that's all I got for this week, and we'll catch you guys next time. That does it for this week's edition of Couch Potatoes. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you'll continue to join us. Couch Potatoes can be found on Twitter at Couch Potatoes, and on Anook at anook.com/blog/couch-potatoes. Music credits, other places you can find us, and pertinent links discussed on the show can be found in the show notes. Thanks for listening. We're going to get back to gaming now, so we'll see you next week.